Will Peacemaker survive this show? What will Rick Flag do in the end? And what's going to happen with all of his friends? Peacemaker, we're thinking about you in this episode. Let's talk about it.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Collard Greens and Nerdy Things. Of course, your favorite podcast, the podcast that everybody wants to watch while they have the free time. I am your host, King, and this is the greatest co host, JC3. And today we're doing the finale of season 2 Peacemaker, episode 8. What a crazy big show it's been. And we're just going to kick it off with how things happened. But before I do that, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow us along with our journey. We want to hear from you. We love the comments and we love to see you guys there. And also, don't forget, this is a full spoiler review. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything. And most of the subjects are not necessarily kid friendly. So you might want to get the little ones out of the room. Now that all the housekeeping's done, let's just dive on in. So, opening up this episode, we get a great flashback of Peacemaker and Amelia Harcourt. They've been talking about this whole time that something happened between them, and we never got to see it. And now we're finding out what happens. They're having a great dinner at Big Belly Burger, and you can tell this is when their relationships kind of spicing up. And they're next to this riverboat or kind of cruise ship that's having a party that Peacemaker has to drag Amelia with him, even though she does not care for the band. They go up to see this band, Nilsson, playing, and they're playing, of course, a song we've heard throughout the show. And we finally get the moment that they have been discussing and nobody wants to talk about. Amelia and Peacemaker kissed. And we get that moment that he's been wanting to know whether that moment was real or was it not. And a cool little thing that I learned afterwards was James Gunn is actually in that scene and he's in the far back. So if you want to go back and look for that Easter egg, James Gunn's blonde hair and beard is back in the background. So tell me, Jay, what did you think of the opening of this moment that we finally get to see what Peacemaker's been, savoring this whole time?
Honestly, King, I loved it. It was probably my favorite moment of the whole episode. Chris and Amelia have been fantastic this whole season. I've been loving the will they, won't they dynamic and just trying to figure out what happened on that night on the boat. And why I love it so much is, I mean, of course, a drunken night, everybody's going to have the assumption, that they hooked up, and she just doesn't want to really talk about it or remember it. But to have the realization that they didn't hook up and that it was just simply a kiss and really like a feeling that they had that made her run away. To me, that's kind of more beautiful, like to tell the story that way and for her to give Chris the just the answer that he's always wanted, that it did mean something to her. She's like, of course it did, it meant everything, according to her. And just to see his reaction towards that, just like a kid in the candy store, that was like that was a beautiful moment for me. And it was also beautiful just to see the band. I think their names Foxy Shazam, to see them, yeah, to see them playing, and just to see the both of them goof off, Chris and Amelia, just letting go and just having that moment together. It just showed how much those two characters have grown ever since this series started. So I really very much enjoyed it.
The first band was actually Nilsson. Foxy Shazam is the one who plays later on. Same
Oh,
boat,
okay.
same
Oh,
boat, different band.
that's right. That's
It
right.
was
Okay, cool.
it was such a cool moment. I'd have to agree with you. It was such a good moment to see them finally kiss and the thing that he's been holding on to. And like you said, it didn't have to be sexually related or any of those things. He's missing in his life that pure love, that pure moment that they shared. It was just a sweet kiss, and it was one of those things where the world felt right to him. and he's been striving to get back to those moments of true passion with Amelia that he really wants. And proven to us throughout the show, he's willing to go to an entirely new universe just to get that same love. So it was so much, it was so big for him and so much for him. And I really appreciated that emotional moment. And then that brings us into present day after the flashback where Peacemaker has now surrendered himself to Argus and he's in jail. Amelia sits around with Vigilante, and they have kind of a heartwarming moment of expressing that he means so much to them. And um, uh, Vigilante has a lot of money and drugs that he's sitting on. And Adebayo was trying to convince him to use that money to do something right in the world. And that leads to them using the money to get Peacemaker out of jail. And they do. Peacemaker comes out of jail, but with the first thing that he does is go isolate himself in a hotel. And when he isolates himself, it takes the whole 11th Street gang and a couple other people that I won't mention at the moment to really have heartwarming moments to let him know that how much they love him and how much he means to them and how much he's changed their lives around just in the short time that they've all been together. And they're kind of wrapping up that whole emotional arc. And then we get to see the second band because they go to see them play with the whole team, and they do this montage of getting all the drugs and money that Vigilante had and opening up a new business. And their new business is going to be the answer to Argus that is not over military and essentially bad guys, and they open up a cool business and team called Checkmate with the entire team in tow. And what a crazy, beautiful moment that was. What did you think of them really, James Gunn wrapping up the heartwarming over the heart moments with the whole team and letting that emotional moments really sit? What did you kind of think of that?
For me, the scene with Chris and the 11th Street kids in the motel is probably the best scene in the whole episode. Just because, again, these are his friends, letting him know how important he is to them. I think one of the things that Ads said was, I believe in miracles because of you. I saw an eagle hug a human, and the thing is, it's usually the show is played up for laughs, but in that moment, it wasn't a funny moment. It was like a serious moment. It was like these guys are family, and they can and don't want to operate without Chris, because he's the heart of their whole group. So just to see that moment between them, it just really solidified just how important this group is, how much they love each other, and they're willing to do anything for each other really at this point. And you get that with Ads, you get that from even Economos, who they'll say is the biggest coward that they know, but he's still got love for him. And then of course Amelia, again giving him that reassurance that yeah, you and me have a thing. It did mean something. And it was very cathartic. We just left it at that. As far as the whole montage goes with the group all forming together and creating Checkmate, nice little deep cut for DC. It's nice to know that that's how the spy organization is created through the 11th Street Kids. I also enjoyed seeing Tim Flurry that's part of the group. We also got Sasha Bordeaux, the cyborg, and also Judo Master in this group. So we have two people in the group who are the comedic relief, and one who's killing cyborg. So we will. I can't wait to see where that goes. But that whole moment was beautiful for me, and a really good bright spot for the team, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've got such good moments. I mean, they allowed the 11th Street kids to have really their emotional moment of letting Peacemaker know. With almost all of them coming to tears, and Peacemaker himself realizing that he means more to these people than he could have ever imagined. Skipping to another world was an escape. He has everything and everyone he could ever ask for right around him. And them creating Checkmate, I thought was dope because it what it does is it almost guarantees that those characters will go forward in the DCU by setting up an organization that kind of essentially goes against Argus as, we're a spy organization and we take care of business, but we're not those guys over there. So also because you have the people who came from Argus who are like, nah, we're not going to deal with that. As you mentioned, the two comedic reliefs that we have, we finally get someone asking Adrian questions about the things that he's obsessed with. And it's always a new animal. And Adrian doesn't know anything about those animals. Him and Flurry have a great moment where he got every answer wrong about tell me everything I know about an animal. And it just lets us know we're going to get some real funny moments out of those two and out of this team. So let's move on to the next part, which is going on at the same time, and it's what Flag and Argus is doing. So come to find out, Flag has made this deal, and he's sitting in front of what I believe is the Secretary of Defense, and they're talking about the weapon or the device that they got from Peacemaker that opens up a stable wormhole. The plan that Lex Luthor has, that now Rick Flag has somewhat adopted, and now Argus, that they're going to use this device to open up multiple portals or go through the same portal place that we saw Peacemaker has his helmets and he walked through to the other dimensions. And what they wanted to find was a dimension that was like ours, that was uninhabited, but was safe for human beings. And doing that, they went through a lot of Earths that were a lot different. One that felt like a Teletubbies nightmare with little tiny monsters, one that was 100% deceased. And for those of you guys who are DC fans or do not know, deceased is basically mm, DC's zombies. Kind of like Marvel has Marvel zombies. DC's run was called Deceased, and it was a lot darker. But we got to see a zombie world. We got to see a few other options, but they landed on one place that had no people and was grass, open, sunny, and they're going to call that the Salvation Project. And going forward, the idea would be that get anybody that they deem a problem or any metahumans, especially for Lex, and get them off planet and put them over into salvation so they're in another universe where they can't harm any human beings. And of course, the danger is in that is a lot of metahumans are good people and a lot of metahumans are bad people. So how does Argus choose, right? Jay, what did you think about that? That's probably the most complex part. And it turns out that the plan altogether was to do this big thing that Lex really kind of fell into.
As far as the plan goes, to use salvation to store metahumans there so they can't harm human beings, and the potential that that has when it comes to creatures could be there, what monsters could be there, villains that could be there. It leaves things pretty wide open, possibilities wide open for what we could get. As far as the worlds that we saw, crazy worlds. I think I saw a reference to Candyland, and in the Teletubby monsters that you were mentioning earlier. It was a very brutal montage. Seeing just the Argus soldiers go into these different worlds and get destroyed. It was funny in that way. There was some ways that it kind of threw me off just because of how Rick Flag was responding to the whole thing, kind of like he didn't care. But I mean, hey, he's on the warpath and he has a mission that he's trying to accomplish. So if that's the way that he wants to go about it, I guess that's where we are. But as far as the reveal of Salvation, I'm just very intrigued and excited to see where that could go, especially seeing where that leaves one of our main characters in this whole debacle in this situation. But I'm excited, man. And honestly, knowing what we know about salvation, I think that's I will be very afraid, for what could be coming from that world.
And I'm thinking the exact same thing, right? When I first watched the episode and they talked about salvation, I wasn't super educated on things. So I had to go do a deep dive real quick and kind of, brush up on what salvation was and was it from the comics. And of course, indeed, it is from the comics. Probably, I think, created around the time that Jack Kirby, when he created the New Gods over at DC. And this was a planet that Darkseid used. Loosely, this is a Darkseid reference, and going forward, is that the direction that they're going to go in? Who knows? But I kind of loved it. I love the idea of who are the people you're going to be able to see inside of Salvation, because they're going to be dumping any metahumans in there. And then once they dump them in there, what kind of society forms on Salvation between metahumans who are bad guys and metahumans who are good guys? There's a lot of good storytelling to tell out of that, and I'm really excited to see kind of what James Gunn has planned for it. And the kind of episode where we were going in and out, the part of the episode, excuse me, that we were going in and out of the different doors and trying the different places. It was weird in that moment because it felt dark, but then it also was played for laughs. So I definitely had an emotional not knowing where to kind of go because it was so funny, but at the same time, dudes in Argus are dying in these different planets, and they're cute, but they're also like hellscapes, like the skulls that we saw walking around in that world, and like whatever world that was, you don't want to be there at all. At least not being a human for sure. So I thought that was a super intriguing part. But what you said at the end really leads us into the last portion of the show we have, which is after Peacemaker has a good time with his friends, they go see the band, and they do during that montage, they're partying all together. He finally found the love reciprocation from Amelia, and he's kind of on cloud nine. He has this moment where after she tells him that it's real, he kind of goes, yes, and he's really excited, and they're having a good time partying. The adventure is over. They survived Earth X, and he's out of jail, and they're not all being searched right now. And he ends up going back to the hotel where they were all staying. But there's a bag over his head, and Argus kidnaps him. Argus kidnaps him, and we are brought to an undisclosed location in front of Rick Flag Sr. And the portal is opened up to Salvation, and Peacemaker is shoved through into Salvation. Rick Flag Sr. looks at him and says, "This is for Junior, for his son." And as Peacemaker can get back to his feet and run towards the doorway, they close the portal, and Peacemaker is left by himself in Salvation. And you hear the roar of either some kind of monsters, dinosaurs, something. He's definitely not on this planet alone. And that's where we're left. Peacemaker is stuck in Salvation. His team, and the record that Rick Flag Sr. uses is that he voluntarily went there. So now nobody knows where Peacemaker's at, and nobody knows he's stranded in a universe that nobody has contact with except for Argus and possibly Lex Luthor. Jay, tell me what you think about that cliffhanger, man.
Pretty big, man. That just that whole reveal of them sending Peacemaker into that world by himself. You know, I get it I get Rick Flag's reasons for doing it because Peacemaker killed his son, obviously. But just seeing that just that that hate kind of in Rick Flag's eyes, you know, right before he closed that portal, saying, you know, this is from my son. You felt that, man, and then just seeing Chris all out there alone and hearing what could be coming for him, it was crazy. It really makes me wonder what fending off whatever monsters he's going to be dealing with, what that does to him as a person, how much that changes him, because he really doesn't have anything to fend for himself. So, you know, he doesn't have his helmet, doesn't have his weapons, you know, none of that. So how is he going to survive a world like this? Who is he going to come across in a world like this? I feel like this could really set up some very big things for the DCU, just depending on who he runs into next season. It leaves me very excited, very intrigued, and just to see what the 11th Street kids are going to be going through as well, wondering where their boy is. They're probably thinking, we just got this dude back, and now he's gone again, and we have no idea where he is. But they have proven that again, they will do anything to get their friend back, and I think that next season will be no different for the 11th Street kids.
Agreed. 100% agree. Well, let's do our final thoughts on one, this episode, and of course, on the overall show. I will, of course, go first, and then Jay, you do your thing and take us on out. Online when they have the horse on fire and then another drawing and another drawing, this for me was all the horse on fire. This was a great show. It subverted my expectations. Again, when I first watched Peacemaker, the original series, I had no reference for who Peacemaker was. I didn't follow him in the comics, and James Gunn did a good job of making me love a person that I had no connection to. And I think this season only did that more. Deepened the storyline, gave us more fun, more oddities, spoke more about culturally what was going on in our own world, much less theirs, and then really push the DCU forward in its storytelling and its world building of this new universe we have since James Gunn has come on. So for me, I would say if I was going to give it a rating, as we try to do here, Peacemaker's got to be at 8.59 out of 10 for me. Really enjoyable show, really fun. I think people should just sit back and enjoy the ride. And I can't wait to see what they give us next. I have no idea what's going to come next. Of course, a lot of this stuff leads into the next Superman project that's coming out. But even that, I don't know where it's going to go. So super excited. I thank James Gunn for doing what he did and giving us this kind of nerd content. So that's my thoughts. Jay, take us away.
Well, y'all, this season has been a blast. This episode, I believe this finale was pretty decent. We got resolution in the story between Chris and Amelia with their relationship. I think that came full circle. We finally know what Rick Flag Sr.'s plan was. And again, now we have Peacemaker stuck in this world, and we're left to wonder what's going to happen. Overall, I think the season was pretty great. If I had to put a grade on it, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. For the most part, from beginning to end, I felt like we were just climbing up until we reached the crescendo. The finale did leave me wanting in some parts. I was kind of I was kind of surprised by Rick Flag's turn. Not completely surprised, but just of how just of how his character kind of shifted act wise in the finale. Just given what we know about him in Creature Commandos and Superman, but he's not a perfect character, by any means. He's never been labeled as that. He can make mistakes, as he is currently doing right now. But it just kind of surprised me in that regard. Also, I did kind of want a bit more from the Earth X. That was a big reveal in itself, and I kind of wanted to see where Chris's brother Keith is. Man, we know he's still alive, and I think he's still pretty pissed on his daddy dying and his brothers. So I kind of wanted to see more of that, but other than that, man, again, this season was very, very enjoyable, very funny, action packed. I would actually say that I don't really think the finale needed to be all action just because we got so much of it in all these episodes. So it was good to just have a calm episode in a way, just leading up to what we should be getting next season. But I'm satisfied. I thought it was a pretty good, pretty great show. Again, I give it 8 out of 10. And now we just got to wait and see what happens next. We know Superman Man of Tomorrow is coming out in 2027. We got Supergirl coming out next year. So who knows what role she'll be playing in this whole thing. And hey, man, all we going to do, you, me, King, is we going to sit back and we're going to enjoy this ride that James Gunn is taking us on, because James Gunn is that dude to lead the DCU into a bright future, in my opinion. And I support him 100%. But those are my final thoughts. Thank you all for watching, making it this far. Again, thank you for all the love, the support. Like my boy over here said, please like, share, comment, subscribe. And if there's one thing that you can take from this whole show, be proud. If you have them, be proud of your freckles like your mama told you to. Stay nerdy, my friends.